Hi everybody, my name is Chris and welcome to my channel. Today's video I have some pretty unusual blanks to make Christmas decor with. So I hope you enjoy and let's begin. DIY number 1. And in the first item, I'm going to start with this rusty, crusty bed spring. I do pick my bed springs up off of Whatnot when I can find them. And I've also got this baseball, and I found that just laying around out in my backyard near the baseball field. And I'm going to take a white paint, and I am going to apply 2 coats. So on my Cricut machine, I just cut out a stencil, and I got this stencil off of Cricut's Design Space, and it was just a snowman face, and there were plenty to choose from. Whenever I'm doing faces and I know that my item's going to be wearing a hat, I'd like to have that hat on prior to putting my face on. That way I just know where everything is going to be sitting. So I've got this sock from the Dollar Tree, which is what I'm going to be making the hat out of, and I'm just going to slip that on. And in that way, when I peel my stencil off and place it, I know it's going to work. You guys get what I'm trying to say. But when I put the stencil on, I am going to start with a black paint, and I'm just going to stencil on his face. And when I'm holding the stencil, because of the rounded surface, I kind of focus holding and supporting like one eye. And after I get that painted, I am going to kind of reposition my transfer tape. And you see what I'm doing right there. And then making sure the other eye is flat down. And I will do that in each section. Because like I said, on this rounded surface, it's really hard to get that stencil to lay perfect. And yeah, so that's how I do it. And once again, if you hear little dog voices in the background or little nails hitting the hardwood floor, that is just one of my fur babies. I do apologize. I try to keep them quiet while I'm doing these voiceovers. But yeah, no luck. And I should probably mention, as far as the nose, I do that in a different color. So don't paint the nose black if you are repeating this project, because I do use this color orange for his nose. And I do go ahead and dry the paint down with my heat gun. And then I'm just going to use an embossing tool and some white paint, and I'm just going to paint little white dots in the blacks of his eyes. It was actually part of the stencil, but I figured with those really little bitty pieces, it would just be easier to do it this way. And then I'm just going to touch up any place that I probably got black all over. All right, once I got that face all dry, I'm going to take that sock from the Dollar Tree again. I know I already said that. I have a tendency to repeat myself, I think. But I'm just going to take it and I'm going to gather it up at the top just to get an idea of how much I want to trim off. And it just happens to be right there above where that heel is. And after trimming that off, I'm just going to take one of these little elastics and I am going to tie it off at the top there, just leaving a little bit at the top. And once I get that, I'm just going to slip it back on top of his little head. And I'm just going to fluff it up until I like it, trimming off here and there where it might be a little crooked. And since I used chalk paint for his face, I'm just going to take a clear wax and go over that just to help protect it, because I am going to sell this. As a matter of fact, I've actually already sold this on one of my Whatnot shows. These things tend to go pretty fast. People really like them, and I can't blame them. I just think they're so adorable. So I was originally going to want to make him a little scarf, but all the fabric I had, nothing was quite right. I really wanted the scarf and the hat to match, so I decided to use the rest of the sock, and as I was cutting it down and I got to the toe and I went towards the center of that toe on the top, I stopped and laid it flat. And when I laid it flat, to me, it just looked like a overcoat or a shawl. And I thought, if he had shoulders, this would go like this. I was like, oh, we can make him a little jacket. So that's what he's going to have, is just a little jacket or cape or shawl, whatever you want to call it. And the only thing I needed to figure out was how to get that to stay up there. And I did not want to glue anything. That way, if whoever bought this from me wanted to upcycle this rusty crusty spring, then they could take everything off easily. So I was like, okay, well, safety pin. Safety pin. So that's what I did. I went ahead and put a safety pin on there. And as I'm looking at that, I thought, well, that's just a little too silver. It needs to be at least the color of the spring or close to it. So I took I tried burnt umber first, and I didn't like the way it went on. So I had to take some Mod Podge, put that down first, dry it with a heat gun, and then apply some burnt umber, and that worked out. So that's safety pin looks a little more rusty crusty. And in the meantime, I went ahead and invested in some safety pins that are already brown that I picked up off of Amazon. So I'm covered the next time. But I just wanted to make sure that the top of this is sitting nice and flat. And that way when I put his head back on there, it's got a nice place to sit and it doesn't roll off. And yeah, I think it turned out really well. And next I'm just going to take some buttons. I've got these vintage buttons that I also bought a big jar of on Whatnot. And I am just going to go ahead and hot glue those right down the center of the spring, making it appear like he's got little buttons going down the front of him. And if you wanted this to be a little more permanent, you could definitely use something like E6000 or the Gorilla Glue. But like I said, I just wanted whoever buys this to be able to take this stuff off. But I think he's so stinking cute. You guys have to let me know. What do you think about these? DIY number 2. Now this next one, I don't even know if you can call it a DIY. I grabbed some trees from the Dollar Tree, some of their larger ones that are sold individually, and I just took them and shoved them on up into the center of that spring. And when you push them up, all the leaves tend to want to kind of stay pushed down. So I just take one of those little Dollar Tree poker picks, whatever you want to call it, and I just will just kind of fan them out as you see me doing here. DIY number 3. Okay, in this rusty crusty bed spring, I have got some of this wired garland, and I'm just going to take one of those strips, and to start, I'm just going to twist it around the middle of the bed spring. And I worked my way from the bottom to the top, but I don't guess it really matters which way you start. Just know that when you get to the top, it is a little bit trickier to get in between the smaller space between those springs. But I'm just going to wrap it around the bed spring, and when I get to the end, I'm just going to twist that around the bed spring as well, and I'll grab a new piece and start it in the same manner. Just twist it around, wrap it, and twist it to secure it, and just work your way all the way up. And here I've just worked my way to the top, and you can see how small that space is compared to the bottom, and it's wound a lot tighter, so it's a little hard to maneuver, but those do fit in there. You just got to kind of play with it. And like I said, we're just wrapping it all the way around. And I did use a total of 4 of those garland ties. This I had gotten in a little ornament pack from Walmart a few years ago. I do know last year I saw something similar to them. They just give you those rustic vibes, but I'm going to use that and just put it right here on the top of my tree. Just rest it in there. And I got this pick from Hobby Lobby, and I just go ahead and trim off one of the branches. And the branches has got a few of these berries on them. And I like it because you can really just tear those individual pieces off of the main branch or off of the main stem. It makes it easier. Of course, when I get to the last one, I do end up having to trim it off a little bit, but it's awesome because they have their own little wire piece on each individual bead. So I just take each individual one and I just wrap it around the wire on the bed spring, and it just looks like a little bitty ornament. It's just absolutely so cute. This has to be my favorite one out of all of them, at least for the tree part. But you guys will have to let me know what you think about these trees. Actually, let me know what you think about the entire video. If this is stuff you like to see made over. I love to upcycle. I think upcycling is my absolute favorite. And, you know, that's the videos I tend to focus a little bit more on. And so let me know what you guys think about this kind of video. And if you wanted to add a little something else, fairy lights would be stunning on this tree. All right, and for this next bed spring, I've got these little colorful beads from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to pick out 3 colors. And I'm going to pick out the red, the green, and the gold ones. And then I'm just going to start by threading the beads onto the tree, just alternating colors. And I'll get the 3, since I've got 3 colors, I don't know, the way my mind works, I put 3 on there and I just kind of swirl them to the bottom. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of hot glue, and sorry, sorry my picture I keep losing focus. My big fat head keeps getting in the way. I was trying a new angle, and yeah, I'm sorry. It'll get better. Just bear with me. But I just apply a little bit of hot glue and just slide that bead right on top of it. And I will work my way up as I go. And this is what it's going to look like once we get them all on. And then the next thing is I want to add a little bit of greenery. So I'm going to go ahead and take those little garland ties, and I'm just going to trim off a little piece for each section of greenery. And when I get the piece off, just in between those beads somewhere, I'm just going to twist it onto the spring. And then you're just going to repeat that for as many pieces of greenery as you want. And then because this greenery is just always too long in my opinion, I don't know, I just always feel the need to trim it up a little bit and just make it look a little bit more professional, I guess is the word I'm looking for. DIY number 4. Okay, so in addition to rusty springs, I find a lot of people are interested in rusty, crusty doorknobs. Yeah. So I went ahead and bought these, and these are extra rusty. They're so rusty, they leave residue on your fingers. The inside of the bag was terrible. This is what my invoice looks like. I paid like $1 a piece for them, so, you know, no big deal. I'm gonna wipe some of the dust off because that's a bit crazy. And I don't know if you can really call this a DIY. I mean, it's so simple. I got a box of trees from Amazon. I'll link those in the description box so you can check them out in case you're interested. But I'm just going to take a bottle brush tree and I'm just going to stick them in the doorknob. And voila, I'm done. I do tack them down with a little bit of hot glue. But I figure that way, if whoever buys it wants to remove them, it's going to be easy to do. But you guys are going to have to let me know what is your take on the rusty, crusty trees. And the finale for all of these items so far is coming up here in just a moment. DIY number 5.
Okay, I got this insulator I picked up from an old salvage type thrift store. And I went ahead and sprayed it with a clear coat. And that's just because I need my paint to stick. And then it's going to be a snowman. That's what I see when I look at this, is a snowman. And that frosted looks also going to make it look a little icy. So thought that'd be a nice touch.
And the first step I'm going to do after the clear matte spray paint has dried is I'm going to go ahead and take a black chalk paint and I am going to paint where his hat is going. And that's just all around the top and the rim. And then I also try to get a little under the top of the rim, but really it's not necessary. And then after I get that hat put on, I am just going to take an embossing tool and I'm going to make him a little face. I use 2 different sizes of the embossing tools. I use a larger rounded size for his eyes, and then I use a smaller one so I can make him a little carrot nose. You know, all I can say is do the best you can, because that's what I did. And I did go ahead and take a blast of heat to that to get it to dry quicker. But then I'm going to take some Mod Podge, and I'm just using the dishwasher safe. I figured that way if anybody wiped it, it was extra waterproof. But I'm going to apply that to any area that I painted. His hat and the section completely around where I painted his face. I am going to put that Mod Podge, and I do it around, even though I didn't paint like on the back side. I just do it completely around so it all looks even. All right, I've got this fleece scarf that I picked up from the Dollar Tree last year, and I am going to cut it down, and I end up cutting it to 4 inches thick. And as far as the width of it or the length of it, it doesn't really matter because we're going to trim it down. But what we're going to use it for is a scarf to go around this little snowman's neck. So just trim accordingly. But I'm going to go ahead and take that scarf. I'm going to tie it right below that area where I painted his face. I am going to get it tied and kind of scooch it around because I want that knot on the side. That way, to me, it just looked better. You know, if somebody sets it down somewhere to be displayed, it just looked better if that knot was on the side. But then I am going to trim up that scarf a little bit to the to my desired look. And isn't he cute? Oh, I just think he's adorable.
And what I really like is the opening on these insulators. You can use it as a little light. Get you a little tea light and you can just, it'll fit right under there.
DIY number 6.
So we've got a couple of doilies here, and I've got one of these smaller foam balls.
And I'm just going to take the 2 doilies and lay one on top of the other, just straightening them up the best I can, what I think looks nice. And once I get that fitted over that foam ball, I'm just going to take a little elastic band and just put that around the neck. And I do spend some time kind of fluffing it up here and there. And then I have got some bendable wire, and I just kind of twisted it around, making it look like a little halo. And then I'm just going to take that on the back of the head, neck area, and with one finger I'm going to hold that and support it. And then I'm going to take the other hand with the other end of the wire, and I'm just going to wrap that around, keeping the halo in place and moving it as I go as needed.
Set it on a spring, and you have a little spring angel. Spring angel. You know what I mean.
And then I thought, well, you know, I don't want to be looking at this wire. So I've got some of this baker's twine. It's a silver and white baker's twine. I thought the silver would look good with that little silver on the doily or handkerchief. It may even be a handkerchief. But I go ahead and just wrap that around the wire, covering it up, and just tie a knot to secure it in place.
There we have it. Now, longer fabric would probably look nicer, but I have a shorter spring right here. There we go.
DIY number 7. Okay, so you guys are probably getting really tired of my rusty, crusty bed springs, but these are the last 2 that I have. And I went ahead and found on Creative Fabrica some beautiful Christmas vintage ephemera. And I went ahead and printed the images out that I liked on some cardstock. And to trim it out, I find it a lot easier just to use my paper trimmer because I cannot cut a straight line to save my life. And this one's just easy peasy. I just use a mini wooden clothespin. I pick these up from usually Walmart because they seem to be a little bit more sturdy, but sometimes I'll find them at the Dollar Tree. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. And I'm just gonna clip these little cards to the bed spring. And you don't have to use these to clip. You can put a photo. They would be great to hold Christmas cards on. Just giving your Christmas decor a little bit of that vintage, rusty and crusty look that seems to be really popular nowadays. But I hope this video brings you some inspiration on how we can just take some pieces that are going to be thrown in the trash and just reuse them and upcycle them into our daily decor. But I would really love to hear your thoughts on these items that I upcycled today. If anything, just leave me a little Christmas tree emoji down below if you made it this far in the video. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you part of my DIY family.